Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Azzalina, I'm Derek Gano. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Once again, today's episode, we will be doing MLB Midseason Awards and a little trade deadline edition of buy, sell, push. We're adding push because could be both ways for some of these teams. We welcome back on our left there, Phil Gunther. Thank you for coming on again, Phil.
Pleasure to be here, guys. Looking forward to it.
And on the right, we have, of course, Mike Azzalina coming back to join us again.
Guys, always a pleasure. First time I'm on with Phil, though. This is
I
exciting.
was going to say, first time you and Phil have been on, so different dynamic we got going on.
We made it work. We made it work.
First segment here, we're going to do something a little fun way of going about it. First off will be mid-season awards. Now that, of course, we're through the mid-season, a little over, how many games are we in? Around 90 games for most teams. So a little over halfway through. These will be our mid-season awards for AL MVP, AL Cy Young, AL Manager of the Year, and then NL for the same three awards. All right, boys, let's start off with AL MVP. So go ahead and write them down, and we'll show them in just a few seconds. Gotta make sure I spell it right, if that doesn't give it away. All right. If everyone's ready, in 3, 2, 1.
I don't know if you can read mine with the back.
Joseph, so you're the loser. Why did you pick Vlad Guerrero Jr.?
Derek, that was not nice to start this off. That was not nice, Derek. I think you owe me an apology.
Oh, I apologize.
No, it's okay. I think you're half kidding. No, listen, he had a really good first half, and I just think that the Blue Jays with having Marcus Semien and other Teoscar Hernandez, just to name two guys, I think that he's gonna get a lot of good pitches to see in the second half, and I believe that if the Blue Jays make a run and make the playoffs, that they're gonna need Guerrero to have a big season, so big second half. So that's why I went with Vlad Guerrero, and my dad really likes him because he's on his fantasy team.
So for those that were listening, that was 3 Shohei Ohtanis and 1 Vlad Guerrero Jr. for Joe. Mike, do you want to represent us and tell us why we're going with Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I gotta tip my cap a little bit to Joseph here because I actually had Vlad Guerrero Jr. written down as a close second. I mean, he leads the AL in batting average, on base percentage, OPS, hits. Like he's pretty much all around leading the American League in most categories, Vlad. But for me, I think like the wow moments that Shohei has provided us throughout the first part of this season and what he's been able to do, not just at the plate, but I mean, what is he, 4-1 on the mound this year? Yeah. A sub-4 ERA. Like, look, someone asked me the other day, is he the best player in the game? And I think my answer to that right now is no still. But when you have 33 home runs, you've set a record for a Japanese-born player, like the wow moments we've gotten at him, and I think we're going to get a few more tonight. I don't know that there's much of a question here in that regard if he keeps it going. I don't know if you agree or disagree, Phil.
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Oh, sorry, I missed you for a second there. No, I think Vlad actually is a solid pick in any other year that we don't see Shohei Ohtani show up and take the league by storm. I mean, this kind of thing, what he's been doing, we haven't seen it all. I know everybody, saying bringing up Babe Ruth can sometimes get played out in baseball discussions, but like this is the time where it's 100% appropriate. He's fun to watch. The guy, he's a great character out there too. I mean, like he has the stoic, the personality, everything, and he's just hitting absolute moonshots. I think I saw too that he hasn't pitched as many innings as everybody else, but the contributions on the mound are, who hits for that power and can also pitch in the same season. Like he's striking out. I think I saw the rate was 30%. His K rate's at 30%. Max Scherzer's, who's starting the All-Star game tomorrow, is right at 31. So like he's striking out guys among the elite in the league and just hitting bombs. It's just I wish he gets more attention. I'm Shohei Stan all the way, dude.
So that'll bring us to the AL Cy Young Award. So go ahead and write that down for yourself if you haven't already. I'm probably.
I have not. Oh my gosh, you're going too fast. I wasn't ready.
Oh. There we go. Okay.
I'm getting there.
It's like a game show, Derek.
If AL Cy Young, if you're ready, 1, 2, 3. Wow, that is a lot of different ones there. So, Phil, how about you? You want to represent the Carlos Rodon team?
Yeah, I think this was probably out of all of the categories that we had to pick for midseason awards, the toughest battle when I looked at things. I liked Cole a lot through there. Had a little bit of a rough stretch, hit or miss. I've really liked Carlos Rodon. Since I remember following him through the draft through there, he didn't have much health for a couple of years, missed too much time, but he's really putting it together this year. The biggest thing too is he's cut his walk rate way down, and he's just dominating out there. The White Sox have a really strong team. Lance Lynn's a guy who's up there. Saw that Mike representing. They've got quite the 1-2 punch. I'm a little biased towards lefties. I had Carlos in there because of it. So why not?
There it is.
Mike, very interesting that we saw going into the season. They were maybe the 3 and 5 starters on their own teams with Giolito, and I guess you could make a case for Keuchel, but Mike, you got Lance Lynn, the second White Sox for Cy Young.
Yeah, I actually I looked at 3 White Sox. I was thinking, I wonder if somebody else is Lance Lynn. I might really throw a curveball and put Liam Hendricks in the conversation because he's had a dominant season as well. But I stick to the starters. Look, I'm not a wins guy when it comes to starting pitchers. I think that a lot goes into winning a baseball game. But guy's 9-3. He's got a sub-2 ERA early, 105 strikeouts. He's given him a true ace at the top of the rotation. I agree with Phil that this was a really difficult one. I don't feel like it's as clear-cut as what's going on in the National League. I think Rodon's a great pick too. As I said, I thought a little bit about him as I went through this, but when it came down to it, I think Lance Lynn's probably the guy for me that'll tell the story of their season. I think if he continues to pitch well, they're gonna coast into the playoffs and maybe even beyond.
So I went with Garrett Cole, and that might seem like the easy pick. Probably up until 2-3 days ago, he wasn't going to be my pick when he threw the complete game shutout against the Astros. It seemed like ever since the substance issues were coming out, of course, after that, he started to falter a little bit. So people were wondering. So if he didn't have that game, I might not have him down. But Mike, you mentioned about leading a rotation. They're falling apart there they were really never together, I guess, in New York. It's been in shambles for a while now, and I think the only way that they make it to the top of that or near the top of that division is if they get some contributions elsewhere in terms of starters. But he is 9-4. That's tied for third in wins. He's third in ERA, and he's first in strikeouts right now at 147. So right now, I give it to Garrett Cole. That could very much change. Joe, do you have any quick thoughts on your pick, Carlos Rodon, as well?
Phil really made some good points. I actually will just say that I really picked him because I thought his numbers were pretty, really good. But I look at it like Giolito is the upcoming ace. Keuchel is like the wily veteran. And then you have Rendon, who's kind of like, I guess, a mix of both. But he's gotten guys out this year. And I just feel like for them to go deep in the playoffs, he's going to have to keep doing the same thing. So, yeah, I don't really have much on him, though, to be totally honest.
And a no-hitter this year. Let's not forget he had a no-hitter this year.
Doesn't hurt. Does not hurt.
Next up, guys, AL Manager of the Year.
I was prepared this time.
Down. All right. I got mine. Okay. If we're ready, in 3, 2. Up, and Phil.
Yeah.
That's a clean sweep for Alex Cora. Now, Phil, we had a little conversation earlier about how you thought it's interesting, the guy who cheated, right? So tell us about why we ended up picking Alex Cora for. Is it due to lack of choices, or do we definitely think it's Alex Cora?
I think it could be a little bit of that, but I think too, I mean, the Red Sox, the way that they played this first half, and if we're, judging it, this mid-season award right now, who has exceeded expectations the most? And, the Red Sox in the AL right now have just, they're crushing the ball. We went through too, Joe, we brought up before, they don't have, their pitching has been one of the more inconsistent sides. But really, just the way that he really too, they mix and match guys. Like Renfroe, I really like, dude, he's a fun player out there. They got him off the scrap heap. Bogarts, Martinez. They do have a lot of talent, but I think just the way that everything come together, so quickly for them, missing a year out, I think he kind of, took all that as a motivation. They got something to prove, and it looked like they're playing that way on the field.
Now, Mike or Joe, whoever wants to take it, the other two leaders in the division, White Sox and Astros, did we give any thoughts to Dusty Baker or Tony La Russa?
I kind of did to Dusty Baker a little bit, just because after all that stuff with the cheating scandal, I thought that somebody's going to have to come in there and rally these guys to realize that they can still do it the right way, right? Bregman, Brantley, Correa, Altuve. They still have a good core there. Tucker, me and Derek broadcasted Padres Astros game earlier on in the year. Go back to that episode and watch it. It's always a fun time to watch us do our thing, as we say. But no, Yordan Alvarez, there's guys there. The pitching has been, I feel like, not as good. They've had some good contributions, but I definitely did look at Baker. But in the end, for me, the Boston Red Sox weren't even supposed to sniff first place, and they have had 20 games over 500 almost. If they're there, I think they are. Even though losing the series of the Phils, it still really had a great first half of the season. You're talking about Bogarts and Devers as being two all-stars. They're the left side of the infield this year, guys. And JD Martinez is in a slouch himself, really, because I have a few. But Mike, why was it core for you? If Derek, if you don't mind me kicking it to Mike for a sec.
No, Derek, you asked the question, like, is there anybody else? Like, I didn't consider those two guys. I feel like Kevin Cash always has to be in the conversation in Tampa, because I don't know if there's a manager who does more with as little amount as he has. Every year, guys are in it. It's unbelievable. So I did consider him. But Cora, to me, like, he's taken a team that traded, basically the team that traded Mookie Betts, and didn't start the year with their ace Chris Sale, and they're 20 games over 500 and 5 up in their division, 9.5 on the third place team, and in a spot like it's theirs to lose at this point, and I don't think they're going to. They hit too much, and I'm sure they'll add a starter at the deadline. Like, I don't, a starter, maybe even 2 for the back end if they need it, or if they feel they need it. To me, Cora's got this team playing, playing at the top of their game, and offense that just, it feels like there's not an out in their lineup at all. And I think that's a lot of credit to him.
So that'll bring us over to the NL here, we have the NL MVP. This one I'm interested on to see where people go, but could be a couple options here. NL MVP.
Started to write down the Cy Young.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
That's gonna be the same.
oh,
Well,
Maybe it won't be.
Derek.
maybe. And 3, 2. Oh wow. Okay. 3 Fernando Tatis Jr.'s and 1 Jacob DeGrom. Go ahead, Phil. You have the floor.
I guess I got to stand up for the pitchers here. I was hoping to the Cy Young first, just because of this. I just think right now, the way that first half has been, I mean, I don't know if he can really keep going at this rate, but DeGrom is on another level from pretty much any pitcher definitely any pitcher in the game. But I think just the gap between him and most of the other top end guys, I like the first half that Zach Wheeler put together. I don't want to discount that. He's really not far behind him in WAR too, because Wheeler has, put up 20 more innings so far. But the other cool thing I think with DeGrom is I have the number 364, 6 RBIs and 33 plate appearances. I mean, maybe I'm just in love with the two-way guys after going Ohtani, but that's pretty dang respectable. I know he hit in college and everything. I do love Fernando Tatis. Definitely, he's a lot more fun to watch him play than DeGrom. But, I just think, too, with the way the Mets, the injuries that they've had, the division's not very good. But the reason they're in first place is because every time he's gone out there, they're in a ball game. And, I mean, they can rely on that as the rest of their rotation and some of the other, things in their lineup were gone. DeGrom was the rock.
Mike, why'd you end up going with Tatis Jr.?
I don't know that there's a more exciting player in baseball. I think he's so good for the game. And this is beyond the MVP stuff. I texted Phil when they were playing the Phillies and talked to him about the autograph stuff that dude signed for a half an hour before the game. He's just so good for what's happening with the sport right now and getting young players involved. But when it comes to why I think he's the MVP, there's never been a shortstop in the history of baseball to break 28 home runs in the first half of the season. He's done that. His slugging percentage is over 680. Whoa. His OPS is over 1,000. Whoa. And he's already 2020, and we're at the 88 game mark. He's 2020. Some dudes don't get there their entire career in a single season. And this dude did it in the first half of the third season he's played. I fought the DeGrom thing in my own head for about 20 minutes when I was thinking about this. The only thing that I will say about Fernando Tatis is he's considered a 5-tool player by most, but he's got to clean it up defensively. I think he's got 18, 19 errors, which leads the National League. And that's got to be cleaned up because that's another component to this game that should be considered when you think about the MVP. But that, for me, those numbers kind of scream out. Right now, I was looking for the team's numbers without him. I'm going to keep digging because he was out for a little bit. So take that even into consideration. These numbers, and he missed almost 2 weeks of games with an injury. So pretty crazy to consider.
That injury was scary too when we first saw it.
The shoulder popped out in the bat. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Joe, do you want to add any thoughts to Tatis?
First of all, I look at Fernando Tatis Jr. and when I heard about him and how good he was as a prospect, a lot of people might not know this that are just casual fans, but I remember watching his father play. He was a Cardinals third baseman. And this kid, and Mike said it great, right? He's likable. Okay. And I'm not going to go to a couple guys you all know I don't like in the league, but he's not like those guys. He doesn't show up pitchers. He's got a flair. He's got a flair, but I don't know if he's as polarizing.
Watch his share of home runs, Joseph.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. Yeah, but my argument is he doesn't stare guys down like somebody else we know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
again, I feel bad for him. I do feel bad for him right now. But anyway, I just think when you think of baseball, you got to think of a guy that if you take him off your team, like Phil said with DeGrom, like Fernando Tatis Jr. off the Padres, Machado would have to carry them. I know they have Hosmer, I get it, but just saying, Fernando Tatis Jr. is one of the best players in the sport. He's going to be that way for a long time, and he's going to make the Padres go. And I will argue with anybody that he'll win a World Series before he's done, maybe more. So that's my reason I have him.
I think we might be pretty quick on this next one, but let's just confirm here, just in case.
Boy.
NL Cy
Done, you
Young.
guys, look out! I
Oh,
might
you're
have
saving the best for last.
Uh-oh. NL
Yeah.
Cy Young.
This
All
is
right, if everyone's ready, in 3, 2.
There's an injury.
Uh-oh. Okay. That is a clean sweep for Jacob deGrom. I mean, I don't think anyone let me ask this. Did anyone consider anyone else for the Cy Young Award? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I did.
Phil
to be
and Mike,
fair.
I saw both of you.
Yeah, I think that just, when I look through some of the numbers too, and, again, don't get too crazy in some of how they look it up, but in Fangraphs, I think DeGrom had 4.8 wins above replacement. Wheeler was 4.3 right now. Those are great numbers for pitchers, and there's just like the next guys after that in the whole league, they're the top 2 guys. The next after that are like low 3. So it's just how much they've been ahead of each other. And Wheeler has had a really good year. He's been a little more durable. He's pitched more innings, and the Phillies without Wheeler, that would be really ugly. So we toss it around, but DeGrom, this is kind of a different year.
Mike, were you also Wheeler?
Actually, no. Interestingly enough, I love what Chris Wheeler's done this year, but I think the West Coast the East Coast bias comes into play here that like Kevin Gausman is not getting enough love in this conversation. I mean, this dude has taken a whole nother level to throwing this year. He's actually got more innings logged than DeGrom. 22 earned runs and 114 innings pitched. That's insane. He struck out 133 over that time. Which is less than DeGrom in the amount of innings that DeGrom has pitched. So you could argue that there. But I do think, Phil kind of mentioned it, alluded to it earlier. It'll be interesting if this wasn't like a mid-year. I don't know that I would. I think if we were to have this discussion maybe mid-August, we might see their numbers, even the gap closing a little bit more. Because we have seen DeGrom start to come back a little bit more to the back. Whereas Gausman has just kind of stayed where he's been the entire year. So again, right now you can't argue what DeGrom's done, but I think the conversation should be opened up to put guys like Wheeler and Gausman into it. I don't know. I feel I don't know, Joseph, if you had another pitcher that you thought about, but that was the guy that came to mind for me.
That splitter, man.
Oh.
Listen, I did think about Wheeler, to be fair, since I watch him every time he's out there, but I thought about him and I thought I can't. If you match him up with DeGrom, it's tough. I thought of like the West Coast, but yeah, Gausman has had a great year. But again, if you put him up against DeGrom, again, it's kind of tough. So I don't know. And then the Dodgers usually have a Buehler or a Kershaw, but not really there this year. No, it was DeGrom, and it wasn't really close. It was really easy for me.
Well, and
Oh boy.
Phil, I said a couple episodes ago about how Gausman's fastball percentage has gone down maybe like 10% this year, and he's added a splitter, and that seems to be just dominate. I haven't seen him start yet, but I'm interested to watch him in the All-Star game here and maybe in a game moving forward. They haven't played the Mariners yet, so I would like to see that him pitch then. But finally, NL Manager of the Year. This could get a little interesting, but let's go ahead and write that down. We gotta... Okay. If everyone is ready, 3, 2. Uh-oh. I tried to be different, okay?
I'll just stand up and let you, Joseph. He's looking at you.
Can I take it first, Derek, please, to get it out of the way?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, I'll be as short as I can. First of all, a lot of people know out there that I was not a fan of his in Philadelphia, but all personal bias aside, and I will admit, he has done a fantastic job with the San Francisco Giants. A fantastic job. This team, when you look at it from the beginning of the season, you don't look at Donovan Solano. You know, I can't even think of, like, okay, Evan Longoria, he's older, but Crawford and Belt, they have guys, but Gabe Kapler has done. I mean, the only thing that can be worse for me right now of admitting all of this is that if they win the World Series, then I might as well just, heck, maybe I'll move out to California. We know that, you know, I mean, no, but seriously, the Philadelphia Phillies thought they were going to, you know, they fire him. And I know Matt Clinton made a good point when they did fire him, said he'll land on his feet and he'll do a good job somewhere else. Well, guess what? For the once in his life, Matt Clinton was right. And Gabe Kapler actually not only deserves this award at the end of the season, but I will go as far to say if he doesn't get it, it's highway robbery. And I'm going to end like that. And congratulations to the guy that I really couldn't stand. I'm not going to lie.
All right.
That's what
anyone want it? So, by the way, there were three Gabe Kaplers there. And so who wants to take on the Gabe Kapler? Both Philly fans. Go ahead, Phil.
I'll go last, Phil. You go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it does seem like a personal journey in a way. But he got hired as the, you know, Phillies manager with everything going on through there, and just got destroyed from the moment that he took Aaron Nola out in opening day, and everything was blown out. But, you know, much gets lost in this discussion is about how bad that Phillies team was, how bad that they played, what a manager has to work with certain times. That matters. And I think that's where it really comes into play in this situation, because like Joe said, you know, like they've got Crawford, they've got Posey, who are having like resurgent years coming up through. Belt's been there forever. But like a lot of the other guys, it's just a team. You know, they find ways to mix and match. The bullpen, you know, one of the things people always say that, oh, Gabe doesn't know how to manage a bullpen, all that. Like, they've got dudes out there. They're pitching well. You know, the starters, even Alex Wood here and there at times, you know, like Gosman's a nice thing to rely on. But I just gotta look at Gabe and say, you know, wow, I wish we put more talent around him. We could have done something with him. But
I mean, there's no better feeling in the world than being right about a guy. Like, there's just no better feeling in the world than telling people they're crazy because they were out on him in the 5th inning of his managerial career. Like, that is when people, Philadelphia being Philadelphia, the reactionary fan base that we are, that is when people said that Gabe Kapler wasn't a good because he pulled a guy in the 5th inning of his managerial career. Let's talk about him for a second. Let's talk about what's going on in San Francisco. Bill, you just mentioned Buster Posey, and that has to be attributed to what Gabe Kapler has done in managing the amount of games he's played this year. He's an all-star for the first time, and I can't even imagine. I can't tell you the years right now. You know, you mentioned the bullpen. Here are some of the names: Tyler Rogers, Jake McGee, Harlan Garcia, Reyes Monaranto, Jose Alvarez, John Brabia, Zach Littell, Dominic Leone, and Caleb Berrigar. Who? ERA is tied for 3rd best based on ERA, or that tied for 3rd best based on ERA. 3rd in baseball. And that's because of the way he manages it. No one liked his matchup style. No one bought it. And here he is managing that group of no names to the third best ERA in baseball. If I asked the casual fan to name me 5 players without the last name of Posey or Yastrzemski, they wouldn't be able to do it. And this team has the best record in baseball. And it's because of the guy behind it. And I take great pleasure in the fact that he has the best record in baseball and the Phillies are middling with Joe Girardi right now. Manager of the year, manager of the decade. I'll say it all. Put him in Cooperstown right now.
There it is.
I don't, I'm all in on Gabe Kapler. I kid, but let's be serious, guys. This dude has really, really come a long way since Philadelphia. And good for him. Good for him.
So for the record, I would have gone with Gabe Kapler. I just tried to be a little different. I threw out Craig Counsell there, who has also done a fantastic job. I think Craig Counsell is a very, very good manager. They've actually used 53 as of July 4th. They've used 53 players on the team, which is a Brewers record already. That's with Christian Yelich not being Christian Yelich. Then they're still a couple games up in first place in the NL Central. They have 3 amazing starters right now. If people don't know their names either, Midwest biased maybe a little bit. Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, and Corbin Burns are a fantastic 1 through 3 for them right now. And then, of course, you have Devin Williams and Josh Hader in the bullpen. So Craig Counsell is another option, but yeah, I probably agree.
That's a good call, though. No, I respect that.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Well
So
deserved.
that'll move
Notre Dame
us.
guy, Derek. Notre Dame guy.
That'll move us to our second segment here. That will be a little buy, sell, or push trading deadline edition. We're going to go around the round table here, and we're just going to go with either buy, sell, or push for each of these teams. The teams not in here, we kind of went with the ones that were less obvious. If you look at the AL East, obviously the Red Sox are leading the division. They're going to be buyers. They're not going to be sellers. And the Orioles at the bottom of the division, they're not going to be buyers. Most likely it would be pretty stupid if they were. So the teams that are up in the air is who we're going with. And then real quick, we'll give our reasons why we think so. First up in the AL East, Joe, start us off. Buy, sell, or push for the Blue Jays in the trading deadline.
So the Blue Jays, I have them buying, and now just to preface this, I have a couple guys in, like I have the same guys, some of them on different teams, just because there's not a lot of position players. I think you guys realize that there's not a lot of position players out there. But I will say, I have Richard Rodriguez, the closer from the Pirates. He could make sense in Toronto. I have Jose Barrios from the Twins. He can make sense in the rotation. And I have, and actually, that's the only 2 guys I have.
So obviously, you believe that they need pitching, is what you're saying. So by the way, 45 and 42 is Toronto. They're 8 games out of first place. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're in an interesting position because they're definitely a team on the rise. But that division right now, you've got the Red Sox and then the Rays kind of pulling ahead of the pack. Orioles are terrible, and then the Blue Jays and Yankees are kind of right in through there. I think that I can see them. I'm more of a push on them, but I think they could buy when it comes to a guy that's controllable for the future. You know, as he said, they could use starting pitching, but they might be the kind of team that would look to add a guy who is not just a rental for this year. Someone that, they can have around that core on offense that they have to go through. But then again, I was also, as I was thinking long term, I'm like, well, with Simeon right now, how well he's playing, and some of the other guys, like maybe they do try to make a push. It'll be interesting the next couple of weeks for them.
Mike?
Yeah, I tried to take into account where teams are in the wild card standings as well, and they're about the same place in both, if I recall correctly. I think they're like 7 or 8 games behind in the wild card as well. Um, but I am gonna buy him. I agree with Phil. Like I think I see them taking a run at somebody who can help them moving forward, especially in the rotation. That their offense is so explosive. I don't think they really need to consider anything there. Maybe they could take a look somewhere to add to it because they could just outscore teams. But I feel like they do that already. They definitely need another piece to their rotation, and I think a Barrios could make a lot of sense for them because he is a guy that's controlled, at least for the next season. So I don't know, for the stretch run, if they want to try and make a wild card run, I buy them. I think that makes sense for them to try and make a little run here and see if they can put some pressure on the teams up top.
I went with buy as well. I agree. I mean, it would be a shame to waste this offense because this offense is absolutely fantastic. Simeon, Bichette, Guerrero are all Hernandez absolutely dominating. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of pitching. Ryu is on the top of the rotation. Solid season for him, and Robbie Ray just almost had a no hitter yesterday. So I think they were kind of betting on the young Nate Pearson doing something, but he hasn't even pitched well in AAA so far, so he hasn't made his way up. Yes, if they can bring in a starting pitcher, they already brought in Trevor Richards from Milwaukee as a guy in the bullpen. I actually wrote down the same name, Joe. I wrote down Richard Rodriguez, who we watched yesterday. I think he would be a good maybe even the closer. I'm not sure. Could be a closer. Could be the eighth inning guy. I think for them, I would like to see them go for it. Um, and that'll bring us to the New York Yankees, the second team in the AL East. They are 46 and 43, also 8 games back in the division. Phil, let's start with you this time. Yankees, buy, sell, or maybe a little push, a little of both.
I think I have the Yankees at push. Reason being they're a bit back through there in the division right now, and it's crowded. The wild cards looks like where they'd be at. Last I think I checked, they're tied near the Blue Jays, 8 games back in the division, and about 6.5 behind the Rays. So I think there's a lot of interesting things that can come up. As someone who just likes to sit on the outside and hear what Yankees fans, as they're going through it now. And it's also, they're crying like the world's ending right now. The Yankees are so bad if you talk to some of their fans, and yet they're like, have a better record than the Phillies right now, which I'm optimistic heading into the All-Star break. It's just all about the expectations. I think it'd be really interesting. I know Chapman hasn't performed well, but they've got a lot of pieces in that bullpen that other teams could want. I also wonder too, if somebody take a chance on Gary Sanchez somewhere else. Could that really happen? I don't know. I think the Padres, Austin Nola's had a little bit of a, if any spot they need to improve in the lineup for the Padres. That just came across my head today. I was wondering, will we see Gary Sanchez move? Something I think with the Yanks.
Mike?
So I went to a very credible source with this, one of my very close friends, Eric Kopp, who's probably the biggest Yankee fan that I know, and said, what do you think? And he just said, there's no way that this team isn't going to acquire 1 or 2 players at the deadline. They never feel like they're out of it. It's just the organizational mentality, and they know that their fans expect them to do something at the deadline. 6.5 out in the wild card, a lot of games to go. They've been below average defensively at probably 5 different positions that I can think of: catcher, first base, center field, left field. One could argue that they've even struggled, at shortstop a little bit this year. So I could see them making a run at a center fielder. They're very right-handed offensively, but I could still see them making a run at a guy like Starling Marte. He can make sense for them because I don't think he's going to get a deal done with the Marlins. I know he just adds another right-handed bat, but he would be a plus for them offensively and defensively. He's a good defender. And you know what? Like you said it when you were reviewing the AL Cy Young, Derek, this is a team who, outside of Garrett Cole, has no pitching. Like, could you imagine the Yankees being the Yankees, giving Rizzo a call and saying, "Hey, what's it going to take to get Scherzer?" and lining up Cole and Scherzer in a playoff series? Like, are you kidding me with that? I could totally see them going all in and trying to make something happen to get to a wild card, let Garrett Cole win the game, and then just run.
I was a big buy. You said there would be a revolt if they ever sold in New York. Unfortunately, I don't know how you mentioned Marte, but besides the one corner outfield position, I don't know how much they can upgrade the offense. It's just that they need to start playing better, or they need to start hitting better. There's a lot of their big names are struggling. When you look at LeMahieu and Torres, are really struggling. How much can you count on a Corey Kluber coming back, guy who's been struggling with health over the past few years? Luis Severino hasn't pitched in a game since 2019, pretty much. I wrote down a couple of the higher name starting pitchers. Maybe a John Gray comes there, would have to clean up his beard and hair, as of course, but maybe a John Gray or Tyler Anderson out there in Pittsburgh. I think they need to bring at least two starting pitchers in there, because they just seem to be blown up in the starting pitcher position. But Joe, what do you think for the Yankees?
Well, I go push here because I can see them. Phil made a good point earlier, and I think we're going to all have similar, again, guys, but I can see them trading Gary Sanchez. I thought about actually the Cardinals, because Molina's going to be done after this year. It could make sense over there. I thought of Gleyber Torres if they were in talks with Cincinnati early in the offseason about Luis Castillo. I wouldn't rule that out. And you know what? I wouldn't even see if they would come calling for Gregorius. That wouldn't shock me if they trade Torres, I'm saying. Frazier's another name, young player. Somebody might want him in the outfield somewhere. But in all honesty, I agree with everybody. I think they're going to buy. Scherzer makes total sense. He would be so good with Garrett Cole, take pressure off of Kluber. And Starling Marte, I have him down, actually. He makes a lot of sense. I've also added David Peralta. He's a guy that people don't know about a lot, but very good left-handed bat. He might come out and, surprise. But guys, we have a lot more teams, so I'm going to stick with the push. I'm confused with the Yankees. They're confusing me.
Moving over to the AL Central right now, we're going to start off with the Cleveland Indians. They are 45 and 42, currently 8 games back behind the White Sox, probably around maybe 9 games behind in the wild card. Mike, let's start off with you. What do you think for the Cleveland Indians? Are they buy, sell, push?
I promise you guys that eventually I have some sellers and some pushes, but at this point, I like the Indians, so I think that they're going to buy. I think this isn't one of those teams that I look at and think like, oh, they're not for real. Like, I think they could use some upgrades in the rotation. I think they could use upgrades with a power bat offensively, probably in the outfield. I don't expect a big move. I think a names like Anthony Santander of the Orioles, who's been, not great this year, but he's had shown flashes of power in his career. Willie Calhoun on the Rangers. They could take a chance on a Gregory Polanco if he's available in Pittsburgh. I think those types of guys are the route that they go. They're pretty far behind in runs scored, and they pick in the middle of that order. If they go in the rotation, you could probably see a guy like Kyle Gibson from the Rangers, maybe that tier of starter. But I definitely look to see them upgrade in the rotation or the outfield.
I went with a push, whether that be they just do nothing or they sell a little bit and bring a little bit in. I just think that they're just not remotely close to being a playoff team or on the White Sox level. I don't see it being worth it. They have a very young rotation. They have some young pieces there. But when you look at a Jose Ramirez, I don't think they're going to be trading Jose Ramirez anytime soon, but he's one of the key parts in that offense, and he seems to not be able to pull it all himself. There is a severe hole in the outfield, as I think Mike was kind of implying there. They just don't have any outfielders. I don't think it would be one or two pieces for them. I think it would have to be a bunch. So I hope that they don't go fully in, because I don't think that they have the team to make it to the playoffs. Joe, let's go to you.
The Indians are one of those other teams. Like, so Phil said about a Gray, or somebody said about John Gray maybe being a Yankee. I actually see him fitting in Cleveland, because I think Cleveland is one of those, a little bit of a smaller market. He's used to Colorado. He's not used to the big city. So I think Gray could fit in Cleveland. I'm also going to say Peralta again. David Peralta is a really good hitter, and he's a good corner outfielder. So he makes sense to me there. That's kind of what I have. I agree with Derek a lot, though, that I don't think Cleveland's ready to make a run.
The Cleveland Indians. There's one thing that I think about the Cleveland Indians this year. All right, we talked about Jose Ramirez, right? I'll give you guys, guess who the second and third players on the Cleveland Indians payroll are? Second and third highest salaries on the team this year.
Is one Cesar Hernandez?
It might be.
Correct.
Yeah.
At $5 million, Cesar Hernandez. And the other one is Roberto Perez, the catcher.
Wow.
Their total active payroll for this year is $38 million. Like, with guys on the IL, it's over 50. So I'm sorry, when you put together that team, I really like their pitching. You know, they've got a lot of guys. They've got good baseball players like Tito Francona. But I just can't really look at that and think that ownership is really doing everything they can to put a winner on the field this year. It doesn't seem like that is remotely a priority. So I really like, White Sox are running away with it. I think the Rays and, they're the two, well, we'll see. I think the A's and a team from the NL East or AL East could be the wild card. So I don't really think the Indians are close. But they got guys. They're a pitching factory. They can always find guys out of the bullpen. Maybe they move some guys through there, but I think they're probably a push. So I don't really see them as buyers. That could mean that they have room to buy because they're not paying anybody anything.
That's true.
So who knows?
So though I left it, actually they're tied for third as the Detroit Tigers. I left them out because I don't know if any of us think that they're really going to go all in, but I did put in the Minnesota Twins though, because they have a lot of older pieces and guys and they obviously were in first place last year. But right now, 39-50 is Minnesota. They are 15 games back of Chicago. I don't know if this is much of a question, but I guess maybe the question will be how much are they selling? I obviously put sell. Their pitching is severely struggling in all facets everywhere. Except for Jose Barrios, pretty much. He's the only bright spot right now. Pineda is struggling. Kenta Maeda is struggling. I don't know if they'll I don't know Maeda's contract off the top of my head, but I think Pineda is probably someone you're going to see gone. Maybe J.A. Happ is someone you're going to, because everyone always seem to want J.A. Happ on their rotation, so someone will probably trade for him. And you may see some of the pieces like Taylor Rogers go in the bullpen, Hanser Robles, Tyler Duffy, they may go. But I don't see them going all out like Barrios. I don't really see him going unless someone really steps up. You may see Nelson Cruz go, which is a shame. I love Nelson Cruz as a player, but Joe, let's move over to you. First off, do you have sell? And if you do, how sell are they?
Somehow I forgot to write them down, so that's funny, right? Um, but 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 yeah, I have them selling. And you know what, Derek? I actually have Taylor Rogers going from Minnesota to Houston to help out the Astros. So I have that. I also think your boy Derek, former Mariner and one of the probably the nicest guys in the game, Nelson Cruz, he is going to go somewhere, but I didn't write it down. So
Yeah.
I will just say, I'll just say that he's going to end up going somewhere to help probably another American League team. He would be fun to watch on the Rays. He's just that guy. He's that clubhouse guy. He's a veteran. He's a power hitter. He's an older guy. So I'd like to just see him on a winning team.
Mike?
Oh, sell, baby, sell. Like this team to me is they're selling, and Derek, I kind of disagree. I think they are going to be big time sellers. I think they've been one of the most disappointing teams this season, and I think the writing's on the wall in that division. This White Sox team's not going anywhere. They are young. They're playing without 2 or 3 of their best players. It's time to revamp a little bit in Minnesota, and you've got pieces that you can start revamping with. Nelson Cruz has been mentioned. Josh Donaldson's a name that could be out there for teams in need of third baseman or DH. I do think Berrios could be on the block at the right price. I think Pineda is definitely a name that's going to be out there and will leave for sure. This team to me could be the most exciting team in terms of selling at the deadline, just because of the impact names that are on their roster and what they could mean to other teams.
Phil, what do you think? That could be a full-time, you maybe start over. Is that what you're saying, Mike? Pretty much just a start over for them?
I think it's time to consider that. Yeah, I think when you look at the top of that
Their
division
time
with
has passed.
they are, I don't know that you're going to overcome them with the roster you have.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Mike hit the nail right on the head. I think, and you know what? They have a pretty solid core. They got some young talent in there, like in the farm system, more say too. They've got exciting guys that could be down the road, really like Kirilloff. And they can always, Buxton. Yeah, Buxton's missing time. He's pretty much, man, one of the guys who talk about fun players as we did before. That's just one of the things, a big thing that went wrong for the Twins. I think it's a time you got to sell, and maybe, kind of as we talked with the Yankees, that one year the Yankees did try to sell and, got rid of Chapman and got rid of Andrew Miller. They got pieces back that helped them. I don't think that, this Twins team has anybody of that caliber. But as far as retooling, kind of saying, hey, a lot of things didn't go our way this year, we're focusing on next year, that might be the route to go.
That'll move us over to the AL West, where we start off with the Seattle Mariners. They are currently 48-43, 7 games out of first place. It looks like the A's are probably the second wild card. So that would be 3.5 out of the wild card. Joe, you're up first. What do you think for Seattle?
All right, I got push here because Jerry DePoto wheels and deals, and he doesn't even make sense half the time he does it. So I'd be worried as a Mariner fan that they wouldn't entertain thoughts of Haniger because I know he's injury prone, but you'd hope they keep him. I know for Derek's sake, I would hope that they keep him. Nelson Cruz might find his way back to Seattle. I actually wrote that down. I know he doesn't help tremendously, but again, he gives you that veteran presence in a lineup that might need it. I think Seager stays, but he's a name. Maybe a lot of teams need third baseman guys, and this is the time where you want that roster to, keep becoming better, improving, I should say. All right, I'm going to knock your socks off with this one. I really think they might be the team that lands Jose Berrios. I think that the Mariners are going to sit there and be like, you know what? We need more pitching. We can win in our division. We're only 3.5 out. Everybody's saying the Mets, the Braves, the Phillies, even whoever in the East. Guys, I'm telling you, watch out. Seattle might have a couple of tricks up their sleeve. And I just thought about it more and more, and I just have Berrios going to Seattle. So if I'm right on that, I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back if I get that one right.
Go ahead, Mike.
So Depoto's made like more trades than any GM like in the last half decade. Like he right, Joseph, he wheels and deals.
Unbelievable.
He's been quiet, but I do expect him to make a deal or so here. I don't know that I consider it a full sell. Like I feel like trading Haniger is the most likely deal, but they also have guys in the outfield in their system that they're confident in. Guys like Julio Rodriguez, Jared Kalenic, who can fill in basically right away, and they can get pieces back for Haniger. I challenge the injury prone thing on Haniger. That dude's injury that kept him out of baseball.
I know.
Yeah, we talked about that, Joe.
Like,
Jeez.
I know.
Like,
I
no,
don't know why
we're not going there. Here's what I'll say about the Mariners, and I think it'll determine kind of where they go at the deadline. Coming out of the break, they have 3 against the Angels, who I feel like are pretenders, which probably gives away my feel on them at the deadline. And then 2 against the Rockies on the road. Then they come home, and I think this will be the true telling of what Dipoto feels about his team. They have 3 at home or 4 at home against the A's and 3 against the Astros right before the deadline. So I think that stretch of games is going to tell Dipoto what he needs to do. So right now I have them as a push. And I think the biggest trade they make would be a Haniger trade, and it really just opens the door for a guy like Kalenic in my eyes.
Phil?
Opportunity.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to be a push team for me. I would sell, but I think the Mariners and the Phillies have the 2 longest postseason droughts in the league right now. So part of me is kind of hoping that they sell just to at least maybe there's a chance that Phillies get off the schneid before that. But I think that Seager's a guy, third baseman. Joe made a really good point there. Third baseman, teams need him. I think the biggest crutch for the Mariners has just been really since Felix in his heyday. They haven't had a frontline guy, that depth at the top of the rotation. Paxton was that guy for a little bit, but he's not a young guy. What they really need to move forward. And I like Logan Gilbert a lot. He's a guy that can show promise. So honestly, that spot for Barrios, I'm giving credence to that, Joe. I kind of like it. It's a bold take, but that something that's going to help him in the future there. It's probably the Mariners' way to go.
Yeah, I went with push as well because I think they're going to do a little bit of both. That was a very interesting take, Joe. I don't know if they'll do it, but I know they're probably. My bet is without a doubt Kendall Graveman is gone because he'll be someone who's going to be looked at by multiple teams, and we're just not. The Mariners don't seem to put a lot of stock in the bullpen. I assume they will. That'll be like the last thing that they try to upgrade. But I don't. I would like to see I love Kyle Seager, but I would like to see him probably go because he has real no use for us anymore. He's not going to be part of the future. So it's just that a lot of people didn't really want him in the offseason, that they tried to trade him, but he's actually playing pretty well right now. So I think someone will go for him. But I think that they will bring in some young pieces, young MLB ready pieces. I think they will bring in. I think they're kind of past the prospect point. They built up the prospect farm a little bit. So they may try to go for someone like a Barrios. I'm not sure, but I think that they're kind of a push. Well, Mike, you might as well start us off. LA Angels, they are currently 45-44. They are 9 games back. That would be 5.5 out of the wild card. We talked about Shohei Ohtani, Joe, or Mike, and Trout hasn't played. What do you think?
It's so interesting to me, and I know I kind of alluded to it before that I find them to be more pretenders than not, but I look at their schedule and I could see them convincing their front office that they're at least going to compete here because I mean, they come out, they play the Mariners, like I said, so that series could be a toss-up. Then they have the A's, they can make a statement there. Then they play a bad Twins team for 4 before a bad Rockies team for 3, right before the deadline hits. So, like they were on a run here, made some believers in the last couple of weeks. I don't want to say that they'll sell because I look at their roster and I'm not quite sure what they sell. They got a lot of big contracts. This is a team to me that's gonna, like, they're always going to be in limbo until they start spending money or prospect capital on pitching, and pitching. They have so many bats. Then I look at their lineup. I totally forgot they have Anthony Rendon. Like, I completely forgot he existed. And they just don't have the pitching. But I'm gonna go with push. I originally had sell, but I'm looking and I'm like, their schedule does allow for them to sort of make the front office maybe believe, and maybe go get some pitching. Maybe they're a destination for a guy like Barrios. But, like, I don't know that they can sell.
No, what do you think?
Yeah, Angels are probably the most confusing team in the league over the last couple of years. When you look at how they've had Mike Trout and now they get another generational talent, Shohei Ohtani, and they can't seem to mix and match enough guys to, like, keep them competitive on the mound. That's the one thing that I really can't understand. They've tried different routes over the past couple of years. I think the Astros are going to run away with it. I think the A's and the Mariners could, fight and make things difficult. Rendon's playing around. What's Trout's situation? I think that's really what comes down to. How long is he going to be out? What are things moving forward? That'll probably decide it for me.
Yeah, so I know Trout has a strained calf. I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head here when he'll be back, but I'm putting buy. And Joe, you know that I really went in for the Angels in our preview episode, and I put, for the love of God, get starting pitching. And but because you look at their someone like Quintana they brought in, who is now in the bullpen. Someone like Dylan Bundy, who they brought in, who is now in the bullpen. You have two of arguably maybe the best players in Major League Baseball right now on this team, and they can't get anybody out. They are 25th in starting pitching, 22nd in ERA in relief pitching. But the problem is, it's not like they can get anyone who is going to absolutely tilt it in their favor. I wrote down guys like Kyle Gibson and maybe a Danny Duffy for the Royals, who are in last place now. Maybe he can be moved. Is that good enough? Is that any better than what they're throwing out there? Maybe slightly, but I just want them to buy because they are severely wasting the talent that is there right now. So buy for me, Joe.
Have them to sell, but the reason I do is because I don't know if they make the playoffs. I just feel like they're just in limbo, right? Like Mike said, that was the best point. Might be the best point of the whole show, actually. Like, you got to spend money to win, at least unless you're the Rays. So I feel like Joe Adell's a name that a lot of people don't know. I know you guys do. We're all really diehard fans. But Joe Adell is a name that could get you back a lot because he's a young outfielder that now the Angels don't want to part with him, but if they would bring back a lot. That would be one guy I would say to trade. And you know, as we always hear, if they'd ever put Trout available, teams would go nuts. But we know that's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. I'm just saying that if it would happen, it would be crazy. It would be like a bazaar back in grade school. But anyway, okay. So back to the ranch. Derek, I sell, I go Dell, and that's
real quickly, guys. I did check an update on Trout because I was curious that Phil asked that question. It was supposed to be 6 to 8 weeks from May the 18th, which would 8 weeks is like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he's already been running, jogging, hitting. They're saying it's very possible he could be back for their series against the Mariners right after the All-Star break. So
Perfect for Derek.
you
Oh,
know,
man.
I definitely, yeah, I think maybe sell is the right way to. Very confusing team, but Phil's right. I think it does fall in Trout.
Moving over to the NL East and the
Oh,
NL
boy.
side of things.
There
So
we
we have
go.
7 teams left to go. Let's start off with the Philadelphia Phillies. They are in second place right now. They are 44-44, 3.5 games out of first place, and anyone in the East and Central is looking at the leader of the division pretty much, because you look at the Padres and Dodgers are pretty much locks to get in as wild cards, so long as the Giants stay where they're at. Let's start off with Phil. Philadelphia Phillies, buy, sell, a little bit of both, push.
I think I'm gonna characterize them as a buy. They definitely, this is the guys you have: Harper, Real Muto, Wheeler. Nola isn't having the best year, but these are the prime years of that core. Didi, Segura, guys that really you're not looking at like 3 years down the road. This is the kind of team that they need to win now. I think that the weird thing with them, as we've talked about bouncing around, is I'm not sure there's a great – I love Trevor Story, but I don't think that there's really a fix for them on offense. Their offense, the lineup is pretty solid for the most part. I'd like to see a center fielder, like more consistently. They haven't gotten great production there. But I think really it's the bullpen. Bullpen, there's a lot of names out there. Just really, they need guys that can keep them in games in the 6th, 7th inning. That's been the biggest thing for them. Need a guy at the back end. And I think, I don't know, I don't want to steal the thunder if Mike might bring this up, but I would like to see Cole Hamels make another start at Citizens Bank Park.
I won't take too much time away from you guys. I'll just say buy. I think that they need to buy, and I think it's mostly bullpen is where they need to go in. I wrote down an Ian Kennedy, maybe is a name that they can look at from the Royals. Joe, go ahead. You're next up.
All right. I tussled with this for a while. I mean, this has been really difficult for me to do. I say push. The reason I say push is because if I go with one scenario, and it's very simple. If I'm selling this team, I'm selling players that I don't really want to go. I'm selling Rhys Hoskins because you can move Bohm to first. That's one thing I do. And I would move him to Chicago, and I don't know who you bring back, the Cubs I meant. I'm selling Nola because I'm not selling Wheeler. And I would sell Nola, and I wrote down the Yankees or White Sox, but that's what I would do there. And I'm selling Bradley and Kinsler in the bullpen because I think those guys can help other teams. Bottom line is, because I'm such a diehard fan and I have to go there, I can't do it. So buy. I love Ian Kennedy. I put him down, Derek, actually. He's on the paper. I love Richard Rodriguez, young arm, powerful in the back end. Don't sleep on the Blue Jays relievers. They have some good ones. I wouldn't sleep on those guys. And then I wrote down Jose Barrios because I do want to go for it in the starting rotation. I'm sick of Velasquez. I'm done with Moore. I know he's okay, but I'm done with Moore. Let's go. I want to go. So no, but I still say push because I'm torn. Like, I'm so torn. Michael, take it away.
So they're gonna buy. Like they're gonna buy a 9-year playoff drought, a division that was weak to begin with, although none of us thought that would be the case. Just got weaker. Kyle Schwarber's out for a period of time. Acuna's out for the year. So their 2 biggest offensive threats last year, Ozuna and Acuna, are both done in Atlanta. To me, the Mets had one of the easier schedules in baseball to start the year, and now it turns into one of the more difficult schedules. And the Phillies have, based on winning percentage, the easiest schedule in baseball in the second half of the season. They get to play the Pirates and Diamondbacks 13 times. in the second half, and that should be at least 11 wins, and that's not an exaggeration. This team's starting to find it offensively. They're healthy. 5-2 is the best road trip they've had since 2014, so there's some confidence there. They've gotten someone to stabilize a little bit in the back end with Ranger Suarez. I would really like for them to find a closer, a guy who can shut down the ninth inning, and allow Ranger to float through those late innings, help Girardi navigate those late innings with tougher outs. So I think a bullpen piece, or maybe two, as I said to Phil, in other conversations, I think would be the best bet. And yeah, I think, for the Phillies to be successful, they need to use their money in these situations. And Cole Hamels is a way that they can do that. You can go ahead and get Cole Hamels. Hopefully he can be 2019 Cole Hamels. That's a 3.71 ERA. Give you starts for the rest of the season and maybe carry you into the postseason. Biggest acquisition they can get is Aaron Nola back to Aaron Nola. But they're going to buy because this division's not great. The Mets are about to see a much more different schedule than they did, and Phillies are going to see a much easier one than they did. Bye.
So I'll be interested to see what you guys say about the rest of the division here. Obviously, these next two teams things have changed in the past few days, even for both of these teams. We'll start off with the Atlanta Braves. They are now 44-45, and they are 4 games out of first place. Obviously, Ronald Acuna Jr., potentially an MVP candidate, if not at least top 3, done for the season. So he is out. Now, moving forward, I think we started with Phil. So I'll start off with the Braves. I said sell. Now, strictly now, because of what happened, they were a 500 team with an MVP candidate. Without one, they're going to be worse, and they're still a young core. I mean, Freddie Freeman, okay, he's 31. He's getting a little older. But you got Albies. Riley's been very good this year. And you never got Mike Soroka back, which was unfortunate. And he's done for the season. If anything, maybe I even sell people like Charlie Morton. I'm sure someone would go for Charlie Morton or Drew Smiley. The bullpen has let them down this year. They were a strength last season. This season, they are 21st in terms of ERA. I don't know what pieces would want out of there, but I'm going sell. And it's and obviously the unfortunate issue with Marcell Ozuna that went down. So this team kind of drastically fell apart, and I don't see them being buyers. But Joe, what are your thoughts?
It really, you made good points, Derek, but to me, I don't see Atlanta giving up or throwing in the towel. They have Freeman. You did say they have Freeman. They got Albies. I actually think they could take a shot at Marcell Ozuna. Or not Marcell, I'm sorry. Starling Marte. He's very good defensively. He's going to hit for you. He's a veteran bat. And call me crazy, but they really do need starting pitching. I wouldn't say that they don't look to Colorado and look at Gray or Marquez. Marquez is being in the All-Star. If you're pitching the All-Star game tomorrow night, it's a guy that you got to think that could stabilize the rotation a little bit more. The other name I want to throw out there, and it's a name that's been tied to the National League East for many years now, and that's outfielder, third baseman Joey Gallo. He makes sense in Atlanta. He's not a great defender, but he's going to hit home runs. If they want to keep the band together, as they say, they take a shot at a few of these guys, I guess. But Derek, you talked me into it a little bit. I guess it could be a seller. I'll never ever. I'll think I'm like having a dream because I love to see Atlanta be out of it. But it was great points by you, Derek. So Mike or Phil, jump in because you know the Atlanta just as much as we do.
Yeah, I think honestly, when you guys talked before NL MVP and Tatis, I really considered Ronald Acuna Jr. the way that he had a heck of a first half. Home runs, the steals, plays an unbelievable center field, outfield defense. I don't think that can be understated. Losing a guy like that, he's their leadoff hitter. He brings them so much energy. I think that Morton and Smiley, like, not a lot of teams have those. Those are two chips that a lot of people are going to call about. So I think they'll kind of see how, the next 2 weeks goes. But ultimately, I think that they're going to probably be sellers. Their bullpen this year hasn't been what it's been prior years too, not to mention, and the starting pitching's been issues. I think that they've got young talent in the system and abroad. I think that they've just, might not be the year after losing Acuna.
Mike.
Yeah, sellers. Out of the break, Tampa, San Diego, 4 with the Phillies, 5 with the Mets, and then they play the Brewers. Wow. That's a murderer's row schedule coming out of the break, and they weren't playing all that well before the break. They dropped 2 out of 3 to the Pirates, and bounced back against the Marlins. But I mean, you're playing a first place team, a team who's basically in first place in both other divisions, second place team in your division, top team in your division, and then to cap it off right before the break, they've got a 2-game series against the Brewers. So yeah, I sell. I think Morton and Smiley are likely. They might be able to rattle off a bullpen guy or two for basically nothing, but sell.
Is there any chance that they would trade Freddie Freeman?
Interesting, because he's a free agent next year.
Yeah,
like, it's interesting. It's a thought. If they are looking at it after maybe the Rays series and they drop 5 out of 6 in that series and they're sitting 6, 7, 8 games out at that point, I'm sure teams would at least call and ask. You don't think the Yankees would call and see if Freddie Freeman?
I was just going to say that.
Like,
the Yankees.
Talk about changing your defensive and offensive landscape for the stretch run. Like, what a game changer it is. I don't think it's likely, but I certainly wouldn't say it's completely off the table.
Could be interesting.
Yeah.
He wants to retire in Atlanta, but I think he could go back anyway.
So depending on our answer to this next question, you could be saying that it's a 2-team. It could end up being a 2-team race here in the NL East. Last up here, I have the Washington Nationals. They are 42-47, only 6 games back behind the Mets. However, they are 2-8 in the last 10. They were in second place up until basically last week. And Mike mentioned Kyle Schwarber went down. Joe, you're first up this time. Washington Nationals, buy, sell, push.
I don't have them buying. I think I got to go sell here. Scherzer, I would say, is as good as gone. I'm sure they want to hang on to him. Why wouldn't you? He's such a great pitcher, and he's a really workhorse. He's just that's who he is. Does he reunite with one of his old teams? I don't think so, because Arizona and Detroit aren't really that good. The Yankees make a ton of sense. I said it before. He's from St. Louis, I think I read. That makes sense. And do the Reds even take a chance? I could see somewhere in the Midwest to get him. Does Patrick Corbin go in the block? That would be an interesting one. A veteran guy that knows how to win a little bit, So those two, and then I look at veteran guys on their team. What about Starlin Castro? I know he's not that great of a player. I kind of laugh at myself when I said that, but I don't know. He's not a bad player either. He can play second, short, and third. Trey Turner's staying there. Let's be honest. Soto's staying there. But other than that, yeah, I sell it. I mean, they're kind of, I don't want to call them a joke, but they kind of are.
Jeez.
That was harsh, I guess.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah. Gosh, if you were to ask me, right before Schwarber got hurt and how he was carrying that offense, I probably would have a different answer for you. I don't know that I can even push this right now. Look, Trey Turner and Juan Soto are two of the best players in the game. They're unreal good. That rotation hasn't given them what they thought it was going to give them. Aside from the obvious with Scherzer, Corbin took a step back. Lester's been meh, and we all know the Strasburg story, as it's been told many times. But For me, the Schwarber injury is huge. And look, strained oblique, it says 10-day IL, but we all know that that's probably at least a month and a half before he's back. You can't come back from that too quickly in baseball. Like that's just asking for it to rack him up again. I don't know that Scherzer is a definite gone. I don't know if I agree with that. I think Lester is likely out the door. And I think you could see a guy like Josh Bell maybe up for grabs, possibly somebody like that. I like the Starlin Castro idea for some teams who are looking for utility or bench bat, veteran presence, that type of thing. Maybe something from the pen, but I don't know that they sell too much. They might try and add to what they have next year, but yeah, there's the Schwarber thing really hurts. It really hurts. He was carrying them for a solid 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
The heck of a hitter.
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be a sell team. The Schwarber thing is the tipping point. I mean, that month that he put together of June was something we really hadn't seen since almost, I think somebody brought up Sammy Sosa. And when you start bringing up, those warm summer hitting months and Sammy Sosa and home runs comes into play, that's decent company. Soto isn't really having a typical Soto year or what we expect, which is crazy to think how young he is. Turner, I think he's honestly one of the most underrated players in baseball. Maybe I see him a lot more than some other people because he's in the division, but he can really do it all. They've got weird pieces all around that team, like we said, that Starlin Castro, Scherzer is going to be the guy, whether or not he wants to stick around or if he, heads out of there. I think it might be his decision too. After bringing that World Series there, I'm pretty sure he has the 10-5 rights as a player that he has to agree to be traded at that point. So I don't know. It's weird to think the NL East might be a 2-team race after everything we've had to there, but I think by the end of the month, we might see the Nationals, moving those pieces. The Nationals kind of too. I know they won the World Series, but they did Howie Kendrick and Adam Eaton through there. They almost seem like they've had a lot more success, but Angels East, where you have Turner, Soto, these guys that are unbelievable, and then what are they putting around it? So maybe somebody takes a chance on Corbin, that kind of thing. Lester, I think, will be moved too. Maybe he's the guy the Phillies look to, kind of get innings, just to at least have somebody out there. I think they're going to be sellers.
Yeah, I think Washington has kind of been a little in denial over the past bit that they can't. I don't think that they have the talent to make it up there with these top teams. I think they don't want to waste any years with Juan Soto and Trey Turner, and I think that's why they keep trying to reboot a little bit. I think they should probably do kind of a soft reboot here if we're talking movie terms here. I think get rid of all the older guys. Someone will take Castro. Someone will take Josh Bell. I don't know if he needs to be a part of the team. Corbin and probably Scherzer. Don't start over, but keep those key parts of the team. And I think that they really need to just start over. They just are not close to the top teams in that division. So, and we said in the beginning of the year that their starting rotation was extremely thin to start. If they can have Corbin, Scherzer, Strasburg out there, and Lester out there the whole year, great. They'll probably be in good shape. Well, of course, there goes Strasburg. Lester's not pitching well, so Scherzer's trying to carry it. So sell for Washington. 4 to go. Let's go ahead to the NL Central. Let's start off with the Cincinnati Reds, who are a little bit surprising in second place. Only 4 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers. They are 48 and 42. Mike, I believe you are first. Cincinnati Reds. Buy, sell, push.
Let's have some fun. Let's buy. I love this team. I just love this team. There's so many likable players on this roster. And look, they're like absolutely outscoring everybody. Like their offense has been insane this year. I think that, I don't necessarily know what I see them going to get. It's tough. Like I guess I could see another starter. Since Castillo's been a little bit of a letdown this year. I feel like maybe they could go that route. I don't know that they need to add to an offense that, just outscores teams the way that it does. Their schedule coming out is tough, but I think it could be a lot of fun to see them take a run out. They've got the first place Brewers right out of the gate. And then they get the Mets, the Cardinals, and the Cubs. So, some chance to come out of the gate swinging and knock the Brewers back a little bit and give that front office a reason to go get somebody to help this roster. I guess I'd say starting pitching, but I'm rooting for them to buy, man. I love this Reds team. I just love them. Castellanos might be one of my favorite players in baseball.
No.
Yeah, I think actually too, Castellanos, so much fun to watch. Jesse Winker, that's my guy. Hits absolute moonshots through there. I think that they've made some strides. I know last year too. They talk about they use a lot of the drive line guys with pitching. So I wonder if they might be a team that kind of like for a change of scenery guy, somebody that just needs to be in a new place, who might have some control as we were talking to, because they're not typically a team that spends a lot of money in free agents. So maybe they have someone that can stick around there and help them out through next year. But I'd like to see the Reds make a push this year and buy, especially with, the Brewers have a little bit of a lead, but I don't think that, if you run out and the Cardinals and Cubs series, as Michael was saying, they can play really well there. Like you're setting yourself up, you're creating some distance between the other teams. So I think they might buy.
Wow, we're all going by for Cincinnati. Let's go. Get in there. I love their offense. You guys have said that. Luis Castillo started off putrid, so he's actually been pretty good lately. Man, if Sonny Gray can stay healthy, that'll be fantastic. Wade Miley has a 2.80 ERA right now. Tyler Mahle has a 3.68 ERA. So their rotation is decent. I definitely think they need to put a couple guys in the bullpen. They're 27th in ERA right now. They have Doolittle out there and Brad Brock, two guys who have been around. I wrote down two names. I'd like to see him get two relief guys. I have Michael Fulmer, maybe from Detroit. Also give him multiple innings if needed. Former starting rotation guy. And I wrote down Yimi Garcia from the Marlins. Maybe they can grab him. He can be actually a shutdown maybe in the back end of that bullpen. I think if they go in on the bullpen, they may have a legit shot at that division, so long as that offense can keep going how it's going. But, Joe, can you make it a clean sweep? Full buy for Cincinnati?
I'm not only going to buy, but I love what Mike said about Castellanos. A lot of people wouldn't remember, but he played the Tigers for a bunch of years, and he needed, talk about change of scenery. He needed one, and he got a new lease on life because the guy can hit and now on a good team. Phil, I'm going to one of your boys. It made sense to me when I thought about it. I'm pretty sure Kyle Farmer's their shortstop. I don't see it being real easy to do this, but I think that they trade for Trevor Story just to put him over the top. So Story to the Reds. And then I have Danny Duffy also going because he's a guy that they always say is a good guy to eat innings. I also thought when Phil talked about driveline guys, get Velasquez out of Philly and I'll drive him to Cincinnati. Velasquez and the Reds.
I don't know that the Reds are going to go take Vince Velasquez after they scored 92 runs off of him.
Yeah, right.
Maybe Cottom will help out on the deal. No, I'm just kidding. But no, yeah, I thought about it. I'm like, story to Cincinnati, Midwest town, city. Like, it's outside the box, but I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? He could fit, or they could reunite him with Arenado, but that's for another segment. But anyway, that's what I thought. And I also thought of one more pitcher maybe, and that's like a Kyle Gibson, just because pitching in Texas, bring him over to help out the rotation. But yeah, that's what I have with the Reds. Bye. We're not talking about instinct.
Phil, moving to the St. Louis Cardinals. They are 44-46, currently 8 games out of the Central lead. Maybe a little bit disappointing of a team. They were probably favored in that division. What do we think for the Cardinals? Buy, sell, push?
8 games just seems like a lot for a team that they kind of seem middle of the pack, for a little bit, just the way they've been playing. Inconsistent. The question that I really have, though, too, is, and I guess, honestly, I'll throw this to you guys. You guys might have, what kind of pieces, too, if they're selling and buying? Like, they're just a mix and match. I couldn't really – there was one team I looked at, I'm like, I don't know where they sit on.
Goldschmidt, right? You can't do that. And you're not
right.
Arenado. You're not – your outfielders are –
I'll defer on this one after what I said. Let you guys go ahead to it. I think they're sellers, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I wrote down buy only because of where they were supposed to be. I know Flaherty is supposed to be back soon here, as well as Miles Mikolas, but even if they weren't really pitching amazing. Flaherty was pitching well, but Mikolas wasn't great. Carlos Martinez also injured. He's up in the air how good he's been pitching. I don't know, because everyone's in there for the offense, and they are 26th in hitting right now. So I don't know how much better they're going to get there. I put that they could add some bullpen pieces. I put Kendall Graveman going maybe to St. Louis. But, if anyone says to sell, I wouldn't disagree with you, because they're in a pretty tough spot. They're not really young. A lot of their main core pieces are pretty decent age, around 30 years old. So this is a tough one to attack. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I think St. Louis, again, you got Arenado and Goldschmidt there as good veteran guys, and you got to think about that. The one thing I did hear, though, is Max Scherzer's from St. Louis. I think I told you that before. I would say that that's a possibility, but Derek, you piqued my interest in the Charlie Morton thing. He would fit well with the Cardinals, with Flaherty, and give him another chance to win. He's won in Tampa, and he's a good guy to have. I go with that. But I'm going to go with the Cub here, and I'm going to go Javi Baez. I'm going to go with a little more offense. I'm going Javi Baez to go to a rival. So I know I did a little outside the box thinking on some of these.
The Cardinals and Cubs make a trade.
That happens. I'm really going to give myself a pat. You like that? You like the creativeness? Yeah, I think I tried.
Go ahead, Mike.
I mean, if you just want an obscene show of trade offers, let Joseph talk for an hour and a half. Like, Javi Baez to the Cardinals.
He gives them offense. He swings at everything.
I will agree that they need offense. There's zero doubt they need offense. They're 27th in baseball in runs scored. Like, that's runs scored per game. That's not going to get it done. I struggled with this too, Phil. I don't know what they sell. I don't know that they can sell a contract or would want to sell a contract like Goldschmidt at 34 years old. Arenado just turned 30. Yadier Molina, we know, his age. If they're gonna sell, maybe a bullpen piece like an Andrew Miller could be attractive. Maybe catch lightning in a bottle one more time in the postseason. But like, they're a weird situation because I don't see any reason for them to buy. Like, I don't think they're overcoming what's in front of them in the Central. and I don't see anything that they can sell. They're kind of stuck like that 2012 era Phillies team, 13, where they couldn't necessarily decide what they do. They were holding on to hope that maybe that team could make one more run. But
What about Carlson? What about
weird.
like a Carlson or an O'Neal? Do you think anybody would like them
those are the
guys?
people you want to try and keep around to see if
Right.
you
Building blocks. Yeah.
I
that's
just
true.
I don't know. It's a weird, they're in a limbo that I don't think they can find themselves out of at this deadline. They might just have to try and retool it and run it back next year and hope, that they put the right pieces into place and stay healthy. I don't see them doing much of anything. They're just going to stand still, watch everything go by.
This is one of my favorites coming up next.
I've kind of lost track here of our time, so I'm not entirely sure where we're at, but we have 2 more to go. We'll try to be a little quicker on these. We'll start off with Chicago Cubs, the final team in the Central, 44 and 46, also 8 games back, tied with the Cardinals in the division. I will start us off. Sorry, Cubs fans. I think it's time. I think it's time to move on and break up the band, which I thought probably should have been done in the offseason. They tried getting rid of some pieces, bringing some pieces in like Jock Peterson and I'm trying to see here. Hayward came in, or he's been there, but Marisnik, Zach Davies. They tried retooling. I don't think that their offense has been bad, even with all of their players there. They're 28th in terms of average, 19th in runs. So I say get rid of them and start over. Joe, obviously you think Baez is gone, so you must obviously think the rest of them are gone, right?
All right, this is what I got. This is exactly what I got. I got Chris Bryant helping out the Mets. I got him going to New York. I got Javi Baez. We said it. I said the Cardinals actually have the Reds here, so one of the teams in the Central. I got Anthony Rizzo to the Red Sox to help that lineup even more, which probably won't happen, but I just thought, just a nice bet. Dolbach's terrible. He's terrible. And to the Philadelphia Phillies, I don't know what they'll give up, but it's going to be something probably pretty good. They're getting a lockdown in Craig Kimbrell.
Okay.
That's what I got. They're selling, Derek. They're selling.
Go ahead, Mike.
I mean, they're selling. Like, watching that team against the Phillies the last week or so, my goodness, they are not good. Like, I don't know how a team with that much talent can be that bad. They were really tough to watch in all phases. I mean, I didn't think there was a worse defensive team in baseball than the Phillies. And then I watched the Cubs. Like, it is a bad team, all around bad team. I don't know that all those guys go. That's a big sell-off. Like, that's huge. That's a lot of pieces. I definitely think Chris Bryant's gone. I definitely think Craig Kimbrell's gone.
Where do you think they're going, though? Where do you think they're going to end up?
I don't know. I think the Phillies is a fair guess for Kimbrell. I think it's hard to predict that. We don't know, what the value that these teams see, what these teams feel like they need. Like, we could say it till we're blue in the face. We don't know. Yeah, I think the Phillies are a fair guess. And I think everybody in baseball, what team's not picking up and asking the Cubs what they want for Chris Bryant? Like,
well, yeah, he's a very good player
all over the field. So if you have a need offensively or in the field, like, Chris Bryant fills it. Like, he plays third, he plays first, he plays the outfield.
Former MVP.
I mean, yeah, they're sellers though. They're not a good team. They can't be. That front office cannot be fooled, and they're a smart front office, but they can't be fooled by the fact they play the Diamondbacks 6 times after the break. Like, they'll sell. I think.
Quick question to anybody who wants it. Does Ian Happ make sense to go to because he's a pretty good outfielder? I know it's like he's an average player, but
listen on everybody.
Yeah,
on everybody.
Makes sense. I just want to throw it out there.
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, well, I think the Cubs are definitely sellers, like all you guys said. And honestly, all we really need with the Cubs, they kind of made their decision a little early when you trade away Yu Darvish and then non-tender Kyle Schwarber, who's, like, as we said before, crushing it, carrying it for the Nationals. So, yeah, I think we speculated a lot. Craig Kimbrell, what if he goes back to Boston? That could be an interesting one.
Yeah.
So I think they're sellers. I mean, it's the weirdest remember watching that team come up and winning that World Series, that core that they had, and to think they squandered all that away pretty quickly. And now those guys, and the weird thing too, like Baez and Bryant both gonna walk away, like that's why I think you pretty much just have to trade them, because otherwise, like, you have to get something back for them. You haven't, if you wanted to keep them around long term, you'd sign them to an extension.
Great point.
Yeah, I think we're sellers.
Well, and that'll bring us to our final team here. Now, you might think, okay, the NL West is pretty split down the middle there. There's 3 teams that are completely in it, 2 teams completely not. I'm only throwing in the San Francisco Giants because they are currently in first place, which is not where they were supposed to be at all. Ahead of the Dodgers, ahead of the Padres by 2 and 6 games. They're currently 57 and 32, which is first in the actually in Major League Baseball. It's the best record in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
The question is, how much are they buying? Do we want them to go all in and completely go for it? Do we think they're that close, or maybe a push type and a slight buy, maybe get rid of some pieces, bring some in? Mike, let's start off with you. Let's skip over Joe. We'll do him last.
What does the best team in baseball actually need? I think that's the question that you have to ask. Listen, when it comes down to it, that another smart front office who does a great job of building culture in their organization. I think Farhan and Scott Harris know what they're up against. And look, I love giving people nonsense and crap about Gabe Kapler. Realistically, this team's probably not winning that division. Like the Dodgers are coming on strong. I think they'll win a wild card spot. I do believe that. I don't know if it'll be the first wild card or the second wild card, but they'll win a wild card spot. And I think that front office is smart enough to know that that's probably their destiny this year. I don't think there's any reason to go all in. I don't know that they're better than the Dodgers are. I don't know that they're better than the Mets are if they get matched up in a series with them. So, if the Mets should make it, the Padres too. Like, let's be real. So at the end of the day, I think, they'll buy. I think they'll make some marginal moves. Kapler used to say we're going to win in the margins when he was in Philly.
He did say
and
that.
I do think that that's probably what you're looking at for the Giants, some marginal stuff, maybe in the rotation, maybe in the bullpen, maybe one of those outfielders I talked about before, like a Santander or something like that. I don't know, guys. It's definitely an interesting thing. They're not winning the division. I think they'd be dumb to go all in. Bide your time and build an organization for when the Dodgers maybe, I don't know, aren't good in 2 decades.
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I think once again, Mike is spelled it out exactly how I would see it. Like they have the best record in baseball now. Gosman at the top could use a little more help, but then I think to myself, if they add Max Scherzer, do I think they're a World Series favorite? No. Yeah. And the amount of capital would probably take, I don't know if I can trust that lineup as much as well as they've hit. When you get to the playoffs, you're not seeing guys 3, 4, 5. It's a little bit harder to play matchup baseball, even though Gabe's been doing a great job of it. But I just don't think where they're in a position to go, hey, we're going to spend we're going to buy the elite starting pitcher. We're going to make that move to put us into that championship window. I think they're smart enough to know, all right, well, we're building what we're building. We're getting the right guys in place. Let's play it out. Let's strengthen the bullpen. Let's maybe get a couple more, some extra guys on the bench, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you guys have said it. I wrote down a slight buy for the Giants. I don't think they should go all in, but you can never have too much pitching. Maybe a pitcher at the end of the rotation, like I mentioned, a Danny Duffy, someone like that. who can be used to eat up some innings. And of course, so long as that core stays healthy. I mean, they all say they're on the IL right now, Posey, Belt, Longoria, but I think some of them were just put there to give them some extra spots maybe. Yeah, I think that they'll probably make a playoff run, but I don't see the need to go all in. Joe, you want to finish it up?
Joseph's got him getting Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Mookie Betts in some interdivision ridiculous deal. Tell us, Joseph, who's going to San Francisco?
I have it pretty realistic, but I will say this. I talked to a good buddy of mine, and he actually told me he's a Pirates fan, and he said that he thinks there's a good chance that Adam Frazier could land in San Francisco and to give them a little more pop and a little more. So he's a knowledgeable fan. So my shout out to my coworker Josh. I'll say this too. I have them targeting Matt Boyd and Kyle Hendricks. I think again the Chicago fire sale, and Boyd has been a guy that's, God forbid, he should have been on the move 8 years ago. This guy, but for some reason he hasn't been. I just look at them a lefty with Cueto, complimenting him a little bit with Gausman. I don't know. It made sense in my weird head, I guess. But yeah, this is hard to do. I'll be so ecstatic if I get a couple of these right, guys. And
I mean, if you get a few of these right, I'll be super impressed. I did like the Giants stuff though. I think Frazier, guys, we didn't talk about like players specifically, but I think he's one of the most interesting dudes at this deadline. Like he could make a big difference on a team who needs a middle infielder. He's really good. And
I was impressed with him yesterday, watching him the whole game.
Like super, in tune with him because of where he plays.
Right.
But he could be a real difference maker for a team in a pennant race. Really could be.
Yeah, it's something else to watch, and this is going to be really cool to watch the next couple weeks just to see what unfolds. Who gets pulled out of Double-A games? I love that. I love when people on social media start talking about people getting pulled out of games. That gets me going. I just love that. Oh man, well, this is our longest show on Phil's birthday. I want to say we're upwards of over 2 hours.
No, we're not over 2 hours.
I thought we were.
We started late.
Yeah.
5:45. It's close.
But as always, everyone, we appreciate you watching. That was our mid-season MLB awards, as well as some trade deadline to look out for. The trade deadline is, does anyone know off the top? July 30th, I believe, 30th. Right?
Yeah.
31st, no?
31st.
30th.
So
it's the 30th today, this year.
Oh.
Because sometimes it's the 31st, but I think it's the 30th.
No, it's always the last day of July.
Derek, just remember to do my final thoughts because I have a special one.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. I got a special final thought, and I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. But just for everybody out there that doesn't know, Michael and Phil grew up playing ball together. They played in the Palmer Township Baseball Association, and Michael usually played second or short. Phil played first. They were good buddies on the baseball diamond, and the Palmer connection, Mike Az and Phil Gunther. So I promised I'd do that for him tonight.
Yes.
What I really wanted him to say is we were like the best 1-2 combination in Little League.
I know, dude. Come on,
we were dominant together.
I'm sorry.
Unreal.
Do not cut that, Derek. That's important.
Shout out Joe Marie for the ice cool tap. Got it. Wouldn't have been anything without
and
it.
Mr. G, who's a great canopy guy. He always brought the canopy out there. So good. Shout out to Mr. G. Derek, he follows our show. Phil's dad. What's his first name, Phil? I always forget.
John. Yeah. John.
Yeah, John Gunther. He always follows our show. So thank you, John, for following the show.
Well, Mike, Phil, thank you very much for coming on the show. As always, it's always a pleasure.
It's been awesome. We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely.
Until next time, everyone, you know the drill. We're out there on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and like the video. All podcast platforms, Twitter, Facebook group, and email us any questions you want answered. timeoutderekandjoe@gmail.com. As always, everyone, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Stay safe. Take care.